Hey everyone, welcome back to Ride Media Group Chronicles. Today I'm joined by Larry Taman, Managing Partner of Brand Positioning Doctors. Larry, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, just to start off the podcast, would you mind to explain to me what Brand Positioning Doctors are all about and who is it that they serve today?
Yeah, sure. Brand positioning doctors is very clear in its name. Most brands in today's world don't truly have the foundation for what their brand is about and what it aspires to be in the marketplace. And so my great esteemed partner, Daryl DC Cobbin, he and I met at the Coca-Cola company. Daryl was the second youngest brand week marketer of the year with all the work that happened with Sprite with Obey Your Thirst. While he was doing that, I launched Powerade, which was one of the most successful launches for the Coca-Cola company. And the thing that we have in common, and really one of the reasons why both those brands did really well, was the foundation of brand positioning. And we learned brand positioning at the Coca-Cola company, which was a specific IP that we've carried forth with us today. And so what's interesting about it, it works across, it doesn't matter if it's B2C, B2B, it doesn't matter the category. At the end of the day, there has to be, for brands to be successful, a true brand promise. And again, to use our parlance, there's something called the brand lover. And that's something that we help our clients find. The brand lover, if you think about an archery target, is the middle bullseye of an archery target. And that becomes the small group of people. Think of it as if there was a Congress where there was a meeting, a constitutional Congress of sorts, and the brand lover would represent people at that meeting. They're the lovers, just as it's described, and they're the folks who you really want to emotionally connect with. And what that does, the reason why I use an archery target as a metaphor, if they become so emotionally connected, they then influence the outer rungs of the archery target. So as an example, I can speak to this for Powerade. That was the brand I worked on. Our brand lover was the captain of the football, baseball, basketball team in high school. So that's very distinct. We all, and brand lover, when it's done well, you can picture who that person is. And so that person then influences the outer rungs of it. So obviously, the other athletes in school, it influences male and female. It influences, when I was doing this, an older guy like me who used to be the captain of the basketball team in high school. So it permeates everywhere. And so for Powerade, everything we did was, all our marketing was focused on that guy. And so that's where you can become really powerful. This, to answer your question, and I know I'm being long-winded, so sorry about that. But to answer your question, so we work with a multitude of clients through all different categories. And so it works on that level, which is really, it's fun to help clients discover this, because what we do as brand positioning doctors, we know the inputs that go into finding the brand promise, finding the brand lover. And by the way, these are things that are all internal. These are not external. These are internal. And so we have a workshop that pulls out the inputs, and we help them figure out how to actually land those things. So
Wow.
long-winded answer, but hopefully that answers your
Yeah, no,
question.
I prefer that if I'm being honest, especially if it's a new concept that I'm trying to get my head around. Very interesting around the ideas of a brand lover. So, what I'm wondering is how can businesses locate their brand lover? How do they discover who is their brand lover? What's the journey there like?
Well, we joke it's hair splitting work. Like it's people lose hair over finding this. It's very difficult. It's not something that you don't discover it overnight. And again, I could talk to Powerade because I worked on that brand, and a lot of the companies, all the companies that we work with, we obviously, that's confidential. We don't share it. So that's why I'm talking Coca-Cola and Powerade. I could talk about that. So for Powerade, it took us a while to figure out who our brand lover was. It took about a 6-month process. And honestly, I'll give you a quick story about how we discovered it. Our team, we were in a meeting, we were being pitched to sponsor a skateboarding tour. And we went to this pitch, and it was very interesting and good. And we walked out of that meeting, and I turned to our team and, you know what? That's not who we are. That's not who. And then it occurred to us as we started talking about it, person who's in the skate, that skateboarder is actually when you think of high school and you think of people, and again, this is very US centric, so I apologize to the folks outside. I'm speaking very US. There's usually animosity between the core sports of football, baseball, basketball. Those tend to be the popular kids, and those tend to be the people who almost become the antithesis to the skateboarding kids. And while we'd be happy, anybody who sweats can drink Powerade, but that, from a positioning standpoint, wasn't who our brand lover was. And that's where we realized our brand lover is really that captain of the football, baseball, basketball team. And that meeting was the impetus for us to really figure out, like, we were figuring out who we weren't, and then we figured out who we are. And that helped us greatly in figuring that out.
Yeah, I'm sort of wondering if you have a story for us there where a business didn't have a brand lover and they were sort of trying their best with testing all sort of content, what they put or messaging they put out there. And then that transformation after they figured their brand lover.
That's why I say it's an iterative process. So we usually have with clients a brand workshop, and then it's 3, 4, 5 iterations with the team to figure out exactly who that brand lover is. And I also think, and I want to make this point, this is very counterintuitive to what most people think of marketing. Most people think, well, if I want to be a big brand, I have to appeal to everyone. And actually, that's completely false, because if you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. And so what we say, we actually say this at all our brand workshops, and we have brand workshops that are just pure marketing training, and then we have brand workshops, as I'm alluding to, that are actually getting to outputs like the brand promise, brand lover, and other things such as that. And we always say at the end of all of our workshops is sacrifice. You need to understand sacrifice will actually help you grow a brand. So you can't be all things to all people. Again, using the Powerade example, we put out a video to the Coca-Cola system, and there was a focus group where we had a very smart all-state basketball player in high school in Florida, and he was really smart, and he talked waxed poetically about the things he liked and we didn't like. And we put out that video and said, a 10-second clip of this kid, and we said, everything we do should be focused on him, on what he would like. If he wouldn't like it, we can't do it. And that's counterintuitive. That's what I mean about sacrifice, because you think a big brand has to appeal wide. And actually, if you're going to really emotionally connect people, you have to figure out who that brand lover is, and then it will cascade outward.
Larry, you're also known for co-hosting Brands Beats and Bites podcast. Would
Yes.
you, would you mind to give me and an audience an overview of what you guys really talk about?
Yeah, we'd love to. Thanks for bringing it up. Our Brands Beats and Bites podcast, the intersection of brand tech and culture. And really we found that it's amazing. We've been going 8 years. And the brand lover for the podcast is really the director of marketing. And you could be at a small company, big company, the director of marketing who's aspiring to be CMO. And so we wanted to give back. We want to help people really climb the ladder of their career. You don't have to be that director of marketing. You could be a senior in college who wants to embark upon a marketing career. You're going to get a lot of help from our show. It's a fun show. We really have a lot of fun and entertaining aspect to it. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but we take our topics seriously. And so we bring you inside the ropes, so to speak, of how decisions get made in marketing. And if you understand that, and also we provide tips to people, very real world, to say, here's the F ups you should avoid. Don't make the same mistakes as we have and our guests. And we've had a litany of CMOs on our show. We've had actually the person who is Mark Lazarus, who is head of all television at NBC Universal. And we've had, as I said, a litany of CMOs, a woman named Shannon Watkins, who was CMO of Aflac and Brand Jordan and Fiserv. And it goes on and on. I'm not going to start naming all the guests, but we're in, as I said, the 8th year of our show. We do the years by album, because again, we want to bring in some of the culture. And so we're on album 8, and we actually are dropping a show. I don't know when this is going to drop, but right after the Super Bowl, where we go over what ads we thought were really good and really worked, and the ads we thought were duds. And it doesn't come from the place of so many of these ad meters are whether the ad is entertaining or not. Ours is based on what's effective or not. And so coming from the place that we come, and we brought our DC and our great friend Tim Spengler, who ran a number of media companies and was involved in many a Super Bowl planning and buying on the media side. So that's the kind of things that we unearth, and we know it's a lot of fun. We hear from our listeners that it's fun to listen to, and while it's fun to listen to, you can get some really good tips to help maybe jumpstart your career, but more so help you get to the ladder, up the ladder that you want to attain.
Yeah. Thank you for that explanation, and congratulations. 8 years is not a
Thank
short
you.
time. It's taken a lot of dedication in order to show up for the podcast. And sometimes you're like, what am I doing this for? Right? Because it's consistency end of the day. I really resonated when you said, oh my gosh, I've spoken to this person, I've spoken to that person. I'm just so excited. I've only had maybe 50 episodes with marketing agency owners and creative leaders. And already I'm like, there's 5 books I bought. I'm expanding my networks, picking your brain. It's just something I wouldn't look back on. I wonder, how do you invite guests to your podcast? How does that work?
That's a great question. So a lot of it is we have a pretty extensive network, and that's what we relied upon as we first embarked on the podcast. And then one of the things, we have a post meeting with every guest, and we ask them what went well, what didn't go well, things like that, and then we ask them for guests they think would be good on the podcast, and that's been really helpful because obviously, having been a guest on the podcast, they get it, they know what the show's about, and so we then get we get a lot of guests from our guests. We've also had I'm sure you've had this as well. There's folks who are in the infrastructure of podcasting, PR people who contact you who say, hey, we think this person would be, and they're representing different people who want to be guests on podcasts, who we think this person would be a good guest for you. And we've had a few guests that way, and that's a small share of them, and some of them have been great, but mostly it's through our network.
Yeah, there's the saying, your network is your net worth as well
Yeah,
out
there's
there.
a lot of truth to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, there's a lot of marketing agencies out there, and podcast seems to be an up and coming thing, and everyone's curious, and some people are engaging with actually starting their own podcast. Now, it's very important to engage with your listeners, as you clarified. I'm wondering, how can you engage with your audience? Even myself, with having 50 episodes out there, I don't really know how to engage with the audience because, particularly, we utilize the YouTube platform. What can I do? Do you have any tips for me?
I wish I had a better answer for you. In some ways, the podcasting, we're all trying to figure it out because there's so many podcasts out there, right? So most of our engagement is through what we do on social media, principally LinkedIn. So that's the way we do most of our engagement.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give that a shot. You just get out there and start talking with them, hey?
Right, right.
So a little bit about sort of the agency. I want to understand whether or not branding was the positioning when the agency was founded. Did you realize from the beginning you're going to focus on branding, or were you maybe an agency that was everything under the umbrella and doing all services and then later repositioned the brand?
So no, funny enough, this is interesting. Interesting question that you've asked, because really you can tell by our name, Brand Positioning Doctors. It's very direct,
Mhm.
and we know, as I alluded to at the outset of the show, that most brands either stumble into brand positioning or they're taking guesses. There's a lot of old school, like Philip Kotler was the old school marketing book. There's a brand positioning statement. Without getting into too much detail, almost everyone uses that statement, and it really allows you only one hit at the apple. We have something called the brand creation statement, and I alluded to it with the brand lover. That's one of 4 things that we hit. And so ours is our own IP. And we know that there's a plethora of companies out there that, quite honestly, need brand positioning. We think ours is the best. And so we've never repositioned. We've never struggled with that. That's what we've always been about. What's interesting that you asked that question is we actually have been asked to do more because we just started with brand positioning and brand strategy. And then once clients see the efficacy of our work, they understand that we can help them in a lot more. So some clients, and they've stayed with us for a long time, the Aflacs of the world, by the way, have asked us to stay on and continue to help make sure that what they are doing is on brand and on strategy.
Clearly, you guys are doing a great job if they want more of your services and your outlook on what they're posting on day to day. Looking at some of the strategies for branding and especially that branding industry right now, what would you say is working really well for the agency in 2026?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think it goes back to we know that what we do can be paradigm shifting in the most positive way for folks. And we always joke that we are not we're marketing, we're brand strategy folks. We are really not good at sales, and so all of our work comes from recommendations from people. Sometimes people just recommending. When people are in a spot, they say, "Oh, you should talk to these guys." Sometimes we've had a number of clients who have shifted jobs, and almost the first call they make is for us. So that's the way we get our work. And I think again, our work is fundamental for any brand to really take it to the next level. We say all the time, if you don't position your brand in the most advantageous way for you, the marketplace will do it for you. And so you need to be out front and really forward thinking in making sure that what you aspire to be is where you're headed and not let the marketplace dictate it to you.
It's very interesting. You mentioned that obviously referrals are a big part of business, but you work with some really large names, obviously without mentioning too much because of NDAs and whatnot, but huge names. So I'm guessing referrals really is the only sort of foot in the door you're able to have. Because, for example, like cold outreach, it wouldn't really work with those
Nope.
sort of businesses, would it?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Mhm.
It's all literally all of our work has been referral.
Did you guys ever try anything else before?
You said it, it's all about your network is your net worth. I think that that's the thing you need to double down on is to, help is to have the folks who you're connected with help you because invariably that makes them look good too.
It's the same like returning back to your community. Like you said, you're trying to do with the podcast. You're
Right.
returning back to the community, but you're bound to have this chain reaction, which I seem to get on this conversation with every guest I speak to now. Return back to your community. It's bound to come back to you, either
Right.
from the same person or from somebody else. It's just how nature works.
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, on the flip side, would you say there's anything challenging within the industry right now?
Well, I mean, I think there's always look that there's always challenge, right? And in challenge lies opportunity.
Yes. I love that.
Obviously,
Love that positivity.
yeah, no, it's true, right? And so, I think there's headwinds with the economy. And so when there's headwinds with the economy, invariably there's so many companies that are I would say CFO driven. And so the first thing a CFO does is that what they know is to cut costs. And so that's always difficult, right? Because for marketers and for brands, you got to spend money to make money. And so that's a headwind. And that's real world stuff that we in the brand infrastructures are always dealing with.
And what about AI then? I'm sort of wondering why I didn't bring that up. Do you think it's a positive thing, a negative thing, especially for branding and what you're seeing happen right there outside
Yeah.
on all social media, pretty much?
So it's so funny. We've been talking about AI now for years on our podcast. And, you know, take a step back. All as it relates to marketing, all technology is just another media vehicle or another tactic, right? You still have to know what your brand is, who your brand is, what it's about, and again, who your brand lover is and who you're communicating to. And we believe, and we've been saying this for years now, that you need to completely embrace AI and lean in all the way. And AI has helped us in our business tremendously as it relates to all aspects of our business. And I think it's one of those things, you can be the turtle that goes into your shell, or you can go out to the world and figure out how it's going to work for you. And there's a multitude of ways AIs work for us. As a matter of fact, we've had some of our brand workshops are purely training for training purposes. That the others, as I was alluding to when we're talking about getting to the brand promise for a client, those are what we call application work. Then we do just pure marketing training programs, brand training, I should say. I don't want to use it. It's brand training workshops that we do 2 days. And so what we do in those brand training, where we don't have any application to get to, we come up with fictitious companies. So we would always, whenever we would embark upon a workshop for a client, we'd always want to come up with a fictitious company that was at least relevant to them, that we knew would be in their world somewhat. And it would take us a while to figure out what kind of company would this be. Now, you simply have AI does it in about 5 seconds. We give the inputs, and of course, we edit it. That comes up with these fictitious companies, and we play with it and whatnot. But it's made our life infinitely easier in that specific instance because we leaned into AI.
I wonder about the businesses that are using AI instead of coming to you, where they think they don't need a marketing agency or a branding agency because they've got AI, they can do everything. Have you
Right.
had any of those conversations?
I know it's funny. As I mentioned, we have a special IP that's our own IP. And we know that, look, even before AI, people thought that they can do this on their own, and we know that if you look at, we've built billion-dollar companies from the inside and outside. So if you want some of that, you should come to us. If you want to work with AI and think if that can work for you, that's fine. I would suggest that what you're going to get from ChatGPT, who's wonderful, we know it doesn't do what we do. And so good luck with that. I don't mean to sound arrogant, but good luck with that. We know that we work with really, really big clients who have moved their business forward in great ways, and they couldn't do it if they just asked ChatGPT.
Hmm. That makes sense. Do you work with smaller guys as well? Because I mean, or is it just the big guys?
Good question. Yes, we do. What happens is, and we've learned our lesson a little bit. We
Okay, yeah.
work with smaller companies. We love working with great smaller companies, but no one works for free.
Yeah.
So a lot of times a smaller company will come and say, hey, can you work with us, and we'll give you a piece of equity, or we'll do this. And we've learned the hard way, you can't do it that way. And so we all need to be paid fairly. So we're happy to work with smaller companies, and at the same time, we're going to embark upon a situation where everyone's being paid fairly and done right. But yes, we love working with smaller companies, and we've been quite effective in working with some small companies.
Yeah. I don't know about your own personal circumstances with working with smaller businesses and sort of lesser budgets, but I've had experience where the expectation is higher.
Yeah, that's great. You're right. You're right.
So it is this dilemma. You'd
As
want to help them out with going with a smaller budget, but they seem to want to be on a call every single day and they want this and they want that. So can you tell me like a story you've had? Maybe like how do you set expectations in those sort of circumstances? I'm still trying to figure that one out.
You know what? You just said something that, look, every situation is different, right? So we don't want to
Yeah.
generalize, but that has happened with us as well. And that's why we don't work with too many small brands and small
Yeah.
businesses. And we've encountered eerily what you just said.
I'm glad I'm not the only one going through that. So there is this is happening to the wider businesses too.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And I think, and some of that, quite honestly, as we're talking about it, is some of that is, if you're working with a bigger company, when you're working with a CMO who's seasoned, right, who's experienced, who's seen a lot of things, they understand how all this works. A lot of times when you're working with a smaller company, it could be the founder herself or himself, right? It could be someone who is, it's a small company and they're not that experienced in the way brands are built and the way marketing works. And so now all of a sudden they don't know how the steps work, and so you have to educate them in that.
Ah,
And I
I was
think
just
that's
gonna
part of the
say
problem.
that. Yeah, it's probably mostly that education that you need to do.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I'm glad we touched point on that. And that sort of calms me down a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you conveyed a lot of the same experience that we've had, and I think we've really delved into what the issues are, because when we work with big companies, and by the way, so much in life is expectations, and we really try and get out in front of it. One of the things that our application brand work, we tell people, by the time you say yes to, you want to have a new brand positioning, and again, this is the application work that I talked about, it's 20 business days. And we tell them it's 20 business days from the time you say
Wow.
yes to, okay, now, but here's the way it's got to work. It's 20 business days if you do the brand workshop on X date. If you do, then it's up to you to then make sure that we have the meetings, the follow-up meetings when they're supposed to happen, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's 20 business days. You invariably, again, with big companies, it goes longer than that, because when we say we're going to, after the first iteration, we need 2 business days to get back to you, but we need to have another meeting in 2 days, invariably that meeting gets pushed out longer. People, that's on them, not on us, right? And so that's part of the process that we put forth. It can be 20 business days if you adhere to this schedule.
I love that so much. You've clearly setting your standards from the first meeting, because
Yes.
that seems to be an up and coming issue, is because the expectations weren't communicated. And I've done it bad as well with my clients personally, where, for example, we wanted to help out and maybe we did more than we should have, but because we didn't communicate the expectation, they're sort of like, oh, what's happening now? Right. So
Right.
that's sort of, you learn from it. And it's just sort of
Yes.
putting that knowledge out there, and you just improve with the next client, making sure they have a more better experience.
It's so true. We've actually, one of the things we've done is we have an internal process checklist.
Uh-huh.
And after every client engagement, we are like, invariably, you think you've thought of everything and something you didn't think about. And so we try and learn from literally every project that we have. And that checklist keeps getting longer and longer, but it's great because we all know internally what we need to do, and then we have an internal checklist, and then we have an external one, by the way, and we send our clients, here's the checklist that we're going to need you to follow with dates and everything, and whose responsibility is to get whatever, to get that checklist checked.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much, because there's always been so bad partnerships because of like no expectation. And it's not always up to you because, like you said,
Right.
meetings get pushed back. And because you've said
Right.
2 days, but you didn't specify them showing up, only then it's going to be 2 days. It's on you for not delivering.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So you can
Yeah.
end up in that boat too, which you want to try and
Right.
avoid.
Right.
So, Larry, thinking about growth for 2026, are there any goals for the branding agency?
Yeah, no, we have our own internal goals that we set. We have our own planning that we do, and so that's something that we're working towards every day. Obviously, that's internal and
Yeah.
not something that we share, but yes, that we as you can see, it's funny, DC and I, we have to be good at details, but neither one of us comes to that easily. That's why we have the checklists and things like that. So we protect ourselves, and we know what we're good at. And we have an incredible colleague, Joy Noel, who works with us, who is someone who's incredible with details. So you invariably bring people in who can help you in the things that maybe you're not as most adept at.
Yeah, I love that checklist idea, and the fact there's an internal and external one. I feel like I'll take this away. Um,
Please do.
a good thing to have, yeah, because sometimes you feel like maybe you communicated that, but maybe you didn't, right? So it's good that
Right.
you've sort of taken it off.
Yeah, and we send that literally when the client engagement begins, when that project engages, we send that checklist out
Hmm.
with dates and
Oh, I see, like an
responsibilities and
onboarding.
everything. And we have a meeting about we I shouldn't say we send it out. We have a meeting to go through it, and then they
Agreed.
have it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. In regards to the goal, you didn't give me a lot to bite onto, but maybe this will help. So if you had a magic wand to
Hmm.
fix one bottleneck in order to get to the goal that you didn't specify particularly quicker, what would it be? Being hypothetical here now.
I think it would be that folks who are in situations that they can't unlock what their brand is really about and where what they need to do to get their brand to the next level is to come to us, is to come to brand positioning doctors to help us figure it out, because there's never been a situation that we haven't been able to really shift the paradigm and shift the brand forward in ways that couldn't be done without us.
Yeah. Larry, thank you so much for taking the time to do this podcast. So, if people wanted to connect with you, find out more about your services and the agency, where could they find you?
So it's very simple, brandpositioningdoctors.com. That's our website, and you can find us there. Again, Larry Taman is my name, and feel free to also listen and or watch our podcast. We're now on YouTube as well, and that's Brands Beats and Bites, and that's on all the podcast servers as well as.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Larry. So, for anyone who wants to connect with Larry, all the links will be down below so you can locate him easily.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me. This was fun. Appreciate you. Appreciate you bringing me on.
Yeah, appreciate the value, Larry.
Thanks a lot.